Hele goede middag voor iedereen die er vandaag bij is. Zo, dan gaan we starten. Mochten jullie het scherm goed kunnen zien en mij goed kunnen horen uiteraard, laat het vooral even weten in de chat. Dan zal dat voor ons het startsignaal zijn om te gaan starten. Dus mochten jullie het scherm goed zien, mochten jullie mij goed horen, laat het vooral weten in de chat. Ik vind het ook leuk om te zien wie er allemaal bij zijn. Dus laat het vooral even weten. Daar wachten we even op en dan gaan we starten met onze Portland Ultimate Webinar Series. Waar we steeds een ander onderwerp pakken. En vandaag pakken we het onderwerp hoe we nou succesvolle MSP's overstappen. Van koploze, naadloze IT-support. En dat met ScreenConnect. Nou, ik zie de eerste dingen al binnenkomen. Superleuk dat jullie er zijn. Dankjewel voor het maken van tijd in jullie drukke agenda's. En laten we van start gaan. Mijn naam is Robin Smit. Ik ben de Head of Growth binnen Portland. En wat het eigenlijk inhoudt is dat ik elke MSP help om over een 20% EBITDA heen te groeien. Dat doen we met onze High Performance MSP-programma. Dat doen we met de 6 P's van Portland. Dat is het framework waarmee we elke MSP bekijken waar we hun bij kunnen ondersteunen om een High Performance MSP te worden. Waar we vandaag staan en wat ik nog vaak meemaak in de gesprekken die ik voer met MSP-partners, is dat we vaak als ik kijk op de websites om ze goed door te screenen, zie ik vaak nog een TeamViewer-knop staan en dan weet ik al gauw hoe het gaat. Een eindgebruiker heeft problemen met zijn laptop, die moet eerst de service desk bellen, die kan op dat moment niks. Wordt vervolgens gevraagd om te downloaden, de ID-code te delen en vervolgens ziet hij een zwevende muis over zijn scherm heen. En heeft hij geen idee wat hij doet. Maar heeft hij ook geen moment dat hij kan gaan werken. En dat moeten we veranderen. We moeten zorgen dat we real-time aan de backend van het systeem al support kunnen verlenen. Support moet namelijk naadloos zijn. En het liefst onzichtbaar en op de achtergrond. Terwijl de gebruiker ongedeerd gewoon door kan met zijn werkzaamheden. Want dat is natuurlijk belangrijk, want volgens Gartner kost de gemiddelde kosten per minuut ongeveer 4745 euro. Maar het gemiddelde MKB 78% verliest het gewoon alleen maar op geld op downtime. En dat is wat we als MSP zijn en gewoon willen voorkomen. Het zorgen dat de continuity er altijd is bij die eindgebruikers. Want elke minuut dat een engineer bij een eindgebruiker het scherm blokkeert, kost dat letterlijk geld. En laat deze cijfers even op je indalen. Wat zien we vandaag de dag? En waarom doen we dit nog op deze manier zoals we het doen? Nou, we zien uiteraard deze 3 onderwerpen. We hebben nog steeds legacy tools. We zitten vast in consumenten-apps. We hebben hele dure licenties die onze groei tegenhouden. Het is vaak geen schaalbaar MSP-model. En een gebruikerblok. Dus het dwingen van een eindgebruiker om te stoppen met werken tijdens de supportsessies. En helpt het dan die eindgebruiker? Of staat het hem juist in de weg? Dat is een hele interessante invalshoek. Maar naadloos support op de achtergrond, wat bedoel ik daar dan mee? Ik bedoel ermee dat je je support kan doorvoeren zonder dat de eindgebruiker eerst een code hoeft te downloaden, de code moet doorgeven, de code verloopt wel eens. De support engineer is vaak ook bezig met andere dingen nog en dan komt er zoiets tussen. Waar wij onze MSP-partners behelpen is een zero downtime voor een klant. En dat betekent dat je gewoon een veel hogere waardering krijgt, betere marges kan draaien en een veel betere klanttevredenheid hebt. Want als je dingen op de achtergrond kan doorvoeren, in plaats van het hele systeem blokkeert en dan ziet de zwevende muis van de support engineer, dat betekent dat je de continuity van de eindgebruiker echt serieus neemt. Protection. En voordat ik naar dit onderwerp toe ga, wil ik jullie vragen, maak er vooral een interactieve sessie van. We hebben straks ook Shaun Riches op het podium en die weet echt alles van deze tool. Dus zorg dat je de vragen stelt in de chat, zodat ik ze straks ook kan lezen en uiteraard kan delen met Shaun. Daar is die al. Protection is compliance, controle en adminrechten. Dit is even van belang voor het feit van waarom ScreenConnect. Is omdat wij heilig in geloven dat ook met de AI-wave die eraan komt, dat bepaalde systemen zeker belangrijk zijn. Wat zijn nou de eisen van een verzekeraar bijvoorbeeld? We zien het steeds vaker gebeuren. Steeds grotere organisaties hebben problemen met de cyberbeveiliging. Maar wat zijn nou de eisen van een verzekeraar waar een bedrijf aan moet voldoen? Dat zijn de 3 cyberverzekering eisen aan de linkerkant. En uiteraard, het draait om veel meer. Maar deze 3 zijn essentieel en gaan we vandaag ook dekken. Privilege Access Management. En wij doen stack audits met onze MSP-partners. En we hebben 9 van de 10 MSP-partners hebben dit niet. En dat is echt een uitdaging. Gedeelde adminwachtwoorden zitten vast in een kluis. Nou, dan gaan we naar de linkerkant weer traceerbaarheid, dus de audit logs kunnen uitlezen. En de least privilege principle. Dus engineers zijn always admin. Dat is ook wat er moet voorkomen worden. Sluit de toegangsgaten. Een mooie afbeelding hier ook te zien van waar komt er nou precies binnen, hoe ziet het eruit. En dit was al wat ik eerder benoemde met het Privilege Access Management. Is nooit meer admin wachtwoorden in een kluis hebben. Wat er vaak gebeurt is, dat is nou het eerste waar ze naar zoeken. Dus gebruik een PAM-oplossing, zodat je eenmalige tijdelijke rechten krijgt voor specifieke taken. En dat kunnen managen, dat is verschrikkelijk moeilijk. En daar gaat ScreenConnect je heel erg bij helpen. Dus mochten jullie klanten hebben die jullie vragen stellen over een verzekeraar, dan is dit een hele interessante sessie voor je. Beveiligd, beheerd en bewezen. Nou, we hebben aantoonbare controle, voldoet direct aan de eisen van de verzekeraars en auditoren. Dus dat is wat we als eerste instantie net ook aanvlogen. On-demand rechten, vraag met 1 klik een tijdelijke adminrechten aan op de achtergrond. Vooral het op de achtergrond, dat is het interessante. Want wat we net ook uitspraken is downtime, dus het blokkeren van de systemen zodat jij je support kan doen, is gewoon super kostbaar. Daarnaast wil je ook niet dat iedereen alleen maar adminrechten heeft of dat er een standaard admin account wordt gemaakt. En dat is nou het eerste waar hackers naar zoeken. Want met een admin account, ja, dan kun je behoorlijk wat schade toedichten. Waterdichte audit logs. Nou, registreer exact wie welke actie uitvoert zonder uitzonderingen. Vaak zien we dat support snel en vluchtig wordt gedaan om er maar zo snel mogelijk vanaf te zijn. En dat komt natuurlijk uit de klanttevredenheid. Dat begrijpen wij ook. Een support case moet je ook zo snel mogelijk hebben opgelost. Maar dat betekent niet dat we vervolgens vergeten te documenteren, vergeten de tijd te registreren, vergeten wat we nou daadwerkelijk hebben gedaan, waardoor we dus eindeloos in discussie komen, maar het ook risico's vormt voor onze organisaties. En daarnaast 100% compliant. Compliancy begint natuurlijk steeds belangrijker te worden, helemaal met die AI-golf die eraan zit te komen. Is versterk je juridische positie bij incidenten. Zorg dat je het altijd inzichtelijk hebt. Zorg dat je die audit logs waterdicht hebt, zodat je altijd kan aantonen wat je precies op een device hebt gedaan en wat voor support je hebt verricht. Nou, waarom ScreenConnect? En dan gaan we snel door naar de tool uiteraard. Is connectiesnelheid 9,8. Controle en features 9,5. Schaalbaarheid in het model is een 9. En low bandwidth stabiliteit 9,2. Dit zijn uiteraard niet onze cijfers. Dit zijn de cijfers van Trust Radius. En gek genoeg zien we vaak de competitie tussen TeamViewer bijvoorbeeld en ScreenConnect, waar we gillend winnen. En dat zul ik jullie ook laten zien waarom. Dus dat is een hele leuke. En deze scores die liegen er niet over. De partners die wij ook op ScreenConnect hebben draaien, die zijn er ook heel enthousiast over. En die gebruiken het, die zouden er nooit meer van afstappen. Dus dat is een goede om mee te nemen. Verder wil ik jullie nog introduceren in ons Support and Performance Prism, waar ik ook al de eerste introductie over gaf. Dit is namelijk ons MSP High Performance MSP programma, waar we elke MSP helpen om over een EBITDA van 20% te groeien. We hebben daar een intake voor gemaakt om daadwerkelijk te zien of jullie als MSP-partners ook bij ons passen en ons programma bij jou past. Om zo te zorgen dat we op basis van onze beloftes jullie ook een high performance MSP kunnen maken. Ik zou jullie allemaal willen uitdagen, iedereen die deze sessie zit, maak gebruik van onze intake. Het duurt 45 minuten tot een uur, waarin we een hele diepe inventarisatie maken voor jouw organisatie, waar jij op verder kan groeien. Het is gewoon een vrijblijvend gesprek. Je krijgt de tips en tricks krijg je van ons mee. En uiteraard, als we daarbij kunnen ondersteunen, dan zullen jullie erbij ondersteunen. Dus mochten jullie hier interesse in hebben, scan gerust de QR-code. Of laat het mij gewoon weten. Zet het in de chat, zodat we na deze sessie in ieder geval contact met je kunnen opnemen. Om de inventarisatie te maken van jouw organisatie. En te laten zien waar jij geld laat liggen. En waar wij je bij kunnen ondersteunen om een high performance MSP te worden. Ik laat het nog even staan voor de mensen die aan het scannen zijn. En dan gaan we nu weer door. Alright. Then I will switch over to English because we got our friend and my legend, Shaun Riches. I'm almost working almost 5 years with this guy, and this guy is an absolute legend. Very knowledgeable about everything about ConnectWise, but especially ScreenConnect. It's one of his talents, and he will, I believe, he will do a live demo, where I am very a fan of. So, Shaun, I won't keep them waiting. Can you first start with a short introduction about yourself, and then share your screen and go all the way, man? We can't hear you yet. You're mute. It's always the mute button, isn't it?
I was trying to share my screen and couldn't unmute at the same time. So just one of those technical problems we occasionally have, when you're using an application. So hi all, yeah, I'm Shaun. I've been with ConnectWise over 5 years now. Just seems like a blip. I come from the MSP world. I've worked in enterprise as well. So I've seen it from all angles. But, I go back to where remote control was you actually visited site in your sneakers and did the work on site, before you actually got to tools such as, ScreenConnect. And I would have loved ScreenConnect. I can't imagine how much time I would have saved having to go and visit sites to go and remediate issues on devices, and it's one of those really simple tools that is really easy to use and understand and give you value straight away there. So as I said, I do need to share that screen there. So I'm just going to see if I can manage to do that without any further glitches there or losing myself. So hopefully you can now share, you can see my screen. I
I,
have jumped.
I can. Yes, there it is.
Fantastic. So we are in the ScreenConnect portal here. We do have those access, and you can go to FA to enable that to get into the platform here, to see what's going on. You can use a vanity URL, and we are in the platform here. Once you go and deploy agents, you're going to go and see all the agents down here. Now you can group the agents, so you can go and find them quite quickly if you wanted to. So I have got it on privileged access management as the tab at the moment. You can even see, how long somebody's been connected to a device, or if anybody is currently, shown by this command here. So I have filtered by Rainham Manchester. Now, one of the common things that we get and get asked is around, well, the end user is on a device. The end user never likes you disturbing them. It's always a pain when you go and do some work. So you've had a ticket in the platform, to go and do something on there. Now, typically what you would go and do is you would go and join this session with a remote control session. But in this time, I'm going to join with options. So I've got an option here to join as backstage. Now, backstage doesn't interact with the end user at all. Backstage is, as it says, a different console to go on there. If I wanted to interact with the end user, I would use that console tab there. So I am just going to go backstage to this device. I'm going to go and join that session now. So you'll see, and typically what happens is it appears on a different screen, but this time it hasn't. It's appeared in the right place. So as you can see, we've given you a graphical user interface where you can go and use any of the commands on the screen. Again, not interacting with that end user. So if I wanted to run a command prompt, I can go and run that on the device there. All right. So I can go and run that command prompt. And you can see, it is fairly quick there. Remember, I am doing a WebEx through a remote connection to another device. So you can see it's pretty quick there. If you are suffering with connection issues, you can go and change the quality there as well. So I could go to low and you're using less bandwidth. I can even go and change that screen size if I wanted to. So if I wanted to, it has defaulted to 1024. If I was remoted to the end user, I could go and do something else there. Now, I could even go and deploy software to this device. I'm sure you will get, well, it's running out of disk space. Can you have a look to see what's going on there? So you can upload to a toolbox different elements that you wanted to. If I wanted to do that, I would go to my manage toolbox here. So I can manage a shared toolbox. I would just go and change, what I wanted to go and edit there. So you can see I've got different elements here that I can go and install. And it is just a simple click, I'm going to install unifying. You can see on the right hand side here, I've had notification that, I'm on that device and I'm going to be going and doing something there. So it did pass that across, and obviously I've had an issue updating it. So let's just go and do that as a hi. I've got the access to the firewall there. I can even go and see what applications are on that device as well. So if I wanted to go and have a look at administrative tools, I can go and have a look at print management, even look at those printers without interacting with that end user, even seeing, well, what print service is this connected to? And obviously it's connected to its local one there. So you've had, and there we go, I've gone and accidentally clicked out of it. So we're just going to go and join that again as backstage. Now, at any stage, you can chat with the end user as well. So if you did want to go and do something, you can just hit that chat button. I can go and hit the chat. Let's just go and change that back to height. There we go. So I can go and chat with the end user if I wanted to. Need to ask you a question, for example. So that will interact with, him on that main screen there. Now, if your technicians did want to swap from backstage to interact with the end user, it is quite as simple. I'm just going to hit that console button and it will take me to that person. Not forgetting, I've got the ability to go and send and receive files from here as well. I can even drag and drop if I wanted to, so I could drag from my console in the background into this screen as well. Go and look at the event logs, through the viewer. Look at different services that might be running on the device. And because I'm in as system on the device there myself, I can even go and restart. So if I wanted to, I could come back here and hit that start button. There are certain features where, you do need to use, like, the iUser mgr.msc to go and launch, but you will see I've gone and typed it wrong. It is spelled like that. So as you can tell, we always love doing a live demo because it shows where I might have screen blindness occasionally. Okay, I've gone and typed in, yeah, there we go. iUser mgr.msc. Let's type it in. Okay. We'll give up on that one for the moment, but you get the idea. I can go and log in as iUser manager if I wanted to, and go and do that if I wanted to there. Can even search the device if I'm looking for a particular folder or file there as well. Anybody have any questions around anything I've shown so far?
Well, I think this is most of it, Shaun, about the backstage function of ScreenConnect. But can you elaborate more? What you started your story with is you would save so much time when you worked for an MSP. Could you elaborate more on that?
Yeah, I can do. Well, just using in ScreenConnect itself. So obviously you've got the travel time to site as well. So, when it was what we used to call it as sneakerwear. So it used to be sneakerwear where you used to use your sneakers to get to the site and go and do things. So it'd save you time actually just getting to site, that travel time to go and do things, because, as soon as the device comes online, you're going to see it in here as well. So you're going to see the device appear here, and I can go and do that. And even for remote support as well, it's quite simple on that support side. You can invite them via URL, an email, a link, or a calendar chat as well. So if they haven't got an
Wow.
agent installed, I can do that as well.
Wow.
One other feature that I absolutely do love with ScreenConnect itself, I know we are talking around, that backstage, saving time, not interacting with the end user, because we all know how end users get frustrated when you phone them up and say, and then they say, I'm just in the middle of something. You can say, well, that's fine. I'm just going to jump on the machine in the background. So you continue working and I will go and do it. So, you could see when the user's logged in, and then all I would do is just go and join with options, that backstage, and I can go and work in the background on that device. Only if I need to ask the end user questions would I then perhaps send a message to them. So I could resolve it from here, and the end user hasn't had to stop working.
Wow.
Typically, because what's happened in the past is the end user says, well, I can't go and do anything on the device. They go and walk away, lock the device, and you're left not being able to access the device at all. So, backstage is very handy in that situation.
So, and if you compare it with the early days and like and all the solutions that are on the market, this is quite well. This is the first I see with the backstage function that a end customer can just continue working. How are people doing it without Screen Connect then? And
Well, it's I do quite a few ScreenConnect demos where people are moving from other remote control tools. Now, in other remote control tools, if you go and download files or send files across, you actually can't remote control at the same time. You can either do one thing or another thing. So, I was recently on with a very large enterprise customer who saw Backstage, and he said, wow, this would resolve so many issues because they have a lot of kiosk machines. So kiosk machines don't generally have a logged on user, but the kiosk needs to be up and running all the time. But it enabled them to leave the kiosk running, so customer presenting, while they were able to fix issues and then background update software and do bits and pieces like that. So they found it very useful that, or obviously if it's a shop as well, it is a till at a shop. The last thing you want, the end user wants is, well, I can't use my till. I still want
Mm.
to take this payment, still want to take that money. So it enables, most of the diagnosis to happen in the back end there.
Wow, yeah, that's. But I can't imagine that it's not only with kiosks; it's with all the end customers. It's very valuable
Yes.
to be aware of the Backstage. I got a question from Yuri. So, if we install apps on the Backstage function, will the client see the prompts as well?
No, so what you can do is you can run it as non-interactive session. So when you go and install a piece of software, so as an example, I might want to go and let's just go and find the button. So I would, as opposed to doing it from here, go to the Backstage here. I could go and uh, run tool. So run tool. So this is the library of applications you might want to go and send. So obviously, if I want to go and send that one, you can see I've got several options here. So run tool in the current user session. So this is the user session. You can choose run it with elevation prompt in the current user session, or I can run it in non-interactive. So I would choose non-interactive session, and the end user is not going to get that. Again, if I am remoted on, so like Backstage to this device as an example, I say I want to go and install, say, VLC player. Right, so I might want to go and install VLC. Oh, I'm on the wrong device for this because it won't have VLC. Let me go and choose the right device. So under Rain Home Industries, I have Desktop 01. Actually, let's go to this one, join with options. Okay, I've already got a session running, so we're going to go and join the session as Backstage. And then we'll see if we've got VLC downloaded to the device. Let's have a look. That was Walter, and he had in his downloads. So you can see Walter's got that in his downloads. So I'm just going to go and run that now. So I'm going to run as administrator from the back here. So you can see I've got the prompt there to go and install it. If I switch to what the end user sees, you will see he's not even logged onto the device. All right, so I'm going to just log on as Walter on that device there.
It's always welcome 123.
Oh, no, there's yeah, it can be, but not in this instance. So you can see Walter's not seeing anything there. I'm going to just flip back to that Backstage view again. So I flip back to Backstage, and I'm going to hit that next button, and you can see I'm fully installing that there. I'm going to install. And if we flip back to the user, able to continue to work without any interruptions there.
That's amazing. That's really good. Is it the first overview that you had when you want to run an application on the device? Is it editable? Can you put your own applications in there as a standard? Because you had
Yes,
some applications.
certainly. So obviously I've gone and built that toolbox through myself. So if we go and switch back, if I go to that toolbox, you have two types of toolbox there. So you can see I can change the folder, so I can go and say, well, which of my devices have I got to go and stored, so I can either run it from my own, but I know that I'd already I'm testing something out with VLC player on this device. So I know I was logged on as Walter to go and show that, running on the device as well. So you can either use your own toolbox, so either a shared toolbox, or you can open your own folder to go and run something as well. So you can see here, there's my own folder where I've got two pieces of software that I may want to go and use on that device. that brings into there as well.
That's great. That's great. Also, I got another question, Shaun. Do you want a simple question or a harder question?
Let's always go for the harder ones, because I always like to scratch the grey matter this time of the day.
Yeah, all right. So I've got a question from John. How about assisting a user with a printer issue? When running backstage, I'm working as a system. Can I see the printers that are provided to the user asking for support, or is it more the printer drivers globally for the system?
So really, it's the print drivers globally for the system. But if I go and have a look, so I've got no printers enabled, so we can't really go and have a look. But I would assume, and obviously we're on the endpoint device, we're only on it as a different user. So we're only seeing the printers that are available to that endpoint itself. So if I go and have a look at the printers again, so if I go, obviously I'm not seeing them as the end user themselves. I'm seeing this as system. So if I've added a printer here, I would go and see more from here as well. So let's go and have a look at administrative tools. I'm going to see print management here. So under print management, I am seeing all printers. Let's see what they are. Let's go and expand that on the side here. So you can see these are local printers to the device here. And if I go and have a look at all drivers for those, these are the drivers that those are going to be using there as well. So
From my
I've never
understanding,
used it in real. I've never used it in real. I would have to test it though.
when a end customer got problems with their printers, would you still see them then?
Well, yeah, you should still see that print manager. You should see, those deployed printers. So at the moment, I've got no deployed printers. So you should be able to clear print jobs on that printer if you need to, because you're seeing that printer in total.
Oh, that's good. That's good. John came to the conclusion himself that we best to remove the printers from the planet. But then again, we are having less work. So,
Well, I always love the classic, I'm having a problem with the printer. You go and have a look at a printer and it says it's out of paper. And it's like, it's like they haven't even done a simple check there just to make sure, well, actually, has he got ink and paper in it?
yeah. I can't imagine how many times there will be the solution for a typical MSP. I got another question, Shaun. Is it limited? Is this limited to a technician or to one technician connecting at the same time? The
No,
concurring
you can have
question.
multiple technicians. So you can see at the top here, under that toolbar, you can have multiple participants on a device. So when we say participants, we're saying technicians there. So if you wanted to shadow somebody, training somebody up, they could join to that same device as well. And you will see, I even have the ability to, regenerate the color there as well. So I think I can even remove them from the device if I had the appropriate privileges. But you're going to go and see the different participants in that session on that device. Now, remember, this isn't end users. This is your technicians connecting to that device. And you will see on the timeline on this side, who's actually connected. So you can see I'm connected to this device at this time, and even, that general information around that device here as well. I could necessarily not even have to use backstage as well. I've got this command prompt here as well, so that everybody has access to. So you don't necessarily need to connect to the device to go and do things as well.
Wow, so you don't even need the backstage function now anymore.
No,
This is the VIP backstage.
yes, but this does require, I believe it is, that there's an add-on depending on what level of license you go for, whether this is included or not, because this is enhanced auditing that we have here.
Yeah. All right. That's good, Shaun. Thank you so much. And then we got another question from Yuri. How about network shares? If you're running a system, I assume you don't have the right credentials for accessing network shares.
Correct, you don't. You're not going to have, unless it's already been configured for that system user, you're not going to see those network shares. That is going to have to be a function of interacting with the end user there to go and see those shares that they have. But what I might perhaps do is go and build that script. So when you go and run tool, you might go and build a script, to go and run when you are on as that end user to go and remap if you wanted to. So don't forget, this can be used as a library. All right, so a library of PowerShell that you might want to use on a device as well to save you having to type in everything every time there to go and recreate.
That's great. So what's your knowledge about the network shares management itself? If you can't do that through ScreenConnect, how are typical MSPs working with ScreenConnect doing that still?
So they would just interact with the end user. So obviously we can't do it through Backstage, but there are other tools out there. So I would do, so obviously you can manage the network shares using PowerShell, and you do have full access to PowerShell from when you're connected as that. So if I go and perhaps join this again, join with options, let's go back to join that session itself. I am on the back end of this device. So if I have got the PowerShell command, I can go and interrogate, well, what network shares might be available to that end user. And that's the same as any RMM tool that you may use as well. You could go and build some automation in the back end and use a startup script to ensure that they're always in place every time that device starts up. So it's just taking it from being reactive, so actually doing it on the fly, through this, and then going that next stage to actually proactive. I mean, we all know you could go and set it as a scheduled task on the device as well. So on system startup, go and do something, but much easier to manage from an RMM. Because with an RMM, what you could also do is you could go and put it in the tray icon and allow the end user to run that script themselves to reconnect those network drives.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sean. And I know this is a ConnectWise product, and I know the agent, the integration through ConnectWise RMM and ScreenConnect are very value available.
Mhm.
But is it working with different RMMs, and can you push the agent through another RMM?
You certainly can. You can push this through any RMM. You don't necessarily. It is a standalone product. Even if you acquire it with RMM, it is still a standalone product. And all you need to do is go and build your installer. So when you're on that overview page, let me come out of that remote control session. So you can see here, I can just go and build an agent. I just go and say, well, actually, am I just going to use this machine name? Am I building it for an existing company that I've got configured here? Or am I doing it for a new company? I will go and turn it there. And then actually, I will go and then choose, well, what type of installer this is. And I think this quite nicely, Robin, answers one of those other questions there as well.
Yeah.
Is there Mac OS support? I think you can see here that, yes, there is that Mac OS support. There is also a app for mobile devices, so for Android devices and Mac devices as well. So you get to this portal from your mobile phone as well, so you could remote control from your device. Now, I do have a Google Pixel Fold Pro, so I actually, I can have the app, and it's like, well, actually, I can be sitting in Starbucks having a cup of coffee, and actually resolving someone's issue if I wanted to.
It's very difficult on a Pixel Fold phone. But this answers the questions directly from the macOS support. So John, there you go. There's your question answered.
Yeah. So there is one caveat around that Mac OS. Obviously, Apple, in their wisdom, have restricted remote control access, and the end user has to approve the remote control access when it's installed on the device. So just that caveat, and I believe that gets prompted every 3 months. We are working with Apple to see what we can do to mitigate that, but
Hmm,
obviously, it's seen as another threat vector there.
exactly. All right. So we got another question, Sean, from Brecht. Is Screen Connect installed without RMM going to be a paid option? It's free now when only Screen Connect is installed.
Screen Connect is going to be a paid option.
I thought it was always a paid solution. So
Yes, as far as I mean, we used to have a free solution. So there was back 2 or 3 years ago, we did have like a home user edition where you could have it as free. But as far as I'm aware, that's now ended. So it's always a paid, because then with the paid subscription, you get all the security updates with the platform. So you get it monitored and they just happen. So.
yeah, no, that's amazing. So hopefully that answers your question as well, Brecht. And if there are any other questions, please feel free to reach to send it directly in the chat. Shaun, I introduced as well with the whole being insured as a company, becoming insured, or customers that need you to be insured for cybersecurity events. Can you elaborate more on the audit trail logs that we see, and what happens on the devices when we're actively going for support?
Yeah, no, that's fine. So obviously you've got the audit trail on the side here that is going to show me, what's going to be there as well. So I've got those audit trails. Not forgetting when I come down to the administration here, I can go and have a look. We're going to give you a status check about that. You've then got, your audit trails here as well. So you can go and query the logs to go and review. There are reports out of the platform that are automatically created for you as well. So if you wanted to go and have a report by host of connections and the times connected, you would just go and run that report. Now you've got the choice of, how do you want to output? Do you want it as a HTML? And you might say, well, I'm going to go and download that. So there you go. You can see, Dean Osborne has been on that device, and how many seconds they've been on that device. Now, it could be a CSV report, can be all sorts of other reports. But I think what we might be really talking about there, Robin, is how do we make sure that only people with the right access, not using shared passwords, get onto a device there as well. And that's using that privileged access management piece there as well. So let's take Walter as an example, shall we? Let's go and find Walter on a device. So let's go and have a look, and we are going to access Walter. Let's go and find him. He is working for Rain Home Industries. He might have gone and said, connect to my session, because you can have the ScreenConnect logo on the end device where the end user requests a session. But I'm just going to go and join with Walter on his device. So remember that I am remoted to Walter himself. So I'm just going to go and do his screen view there. So he's going to be on his device any second. Unfortunately for Walter, he has shared his password with me. We know that's the wrong thing to do, but sometimes we just need to get onto these machines. Typically, we would go and there is another way of doing this. So what Walter could have done is he could have come up to the top here. So I could have gone to Walter and I could have gone prompt for storage. So he goes and stores his password in here for me to use, and it could be for like 4 hours. So if he goes away to a meeting or for a cup of tea, he says, yeah, I'm away for the next 4 hours. I've gone and stored my credentials, so you can come and log on as me at any time. Remembering, even though you're logged on as that person, you're still on the right-hand side here, showing that you are the person who's connected to that device. But in this case, Walter is just a user of that device. One of the features we do have in ScreenConnect is the ability to show how many administrators are created on all devices, because we know with security, you should only have best practices to like your backdoor account and the admin there. So Walter's on this device, he's busy working away. He goes to load a piece of software. So in this instance, we're going to say, well, he's going to try and run the ISE. You'll see now that I've had a prompt up that's interrupting that. So this is the typical UAC prompt. So pretend I'm not connected to the device. These are remote devices, so I do have to use a remote control tool to get to it. So like need to update software could be the reason that he's putting there. He's going to request that elevation, but I am going to cheat for a second. I'm just going to pull up my Teams here so you can show, I can have a Teams hook with this as well. So I'm going to request that elevation there, and you will see on the right hand side here, I've had that new elevation request. Now it's come from this site. It's come from, so the program is this. It's got the thumbprint, it's got other things there as well. Now, because I have so many browsers, then my default one isn't the one that I'm using to demo from. If I click on this link, it's going to take me to the wrong place. So I'm just going to go and show you what takes place on the back here. So you'll see I've got that privileged access. That link would take me to this control here. Now, before I go and accept it, I might want to say, well, actually, is there any viruses in that piece of software? So we're going to click that virus total. I can see actually it's got a score of 0. So that's absolutely fine to go and allow there. So we're just going to go and approve it on the device. And you will now see on that desktop O1, you will see it's now running PowerShell as an administrator on that device there. If I go and close that, and I come to go and use PowerShell again, you will see that I will still get that prompt come back up again. So USE prompt. Now, and this time I might say, well, actually, I'm going to go and deny it this time. All right. So need to elevate. We're going to request it. But this time we're just going to hit that deny button. The end user, what they sees is, you've been denied. All right. So, even stopping them from going and doing something. Can then go and generate a rule. It might be this is a common occurrence across a load of machines, and typically what happens is they would then remote to a device to go and put these prompts in. So you haven't had to go and grab that shared password. So when your technician leaves, you don't have to go and reset a whole load of passwords as well, because we are doing it with that privileged access management. But it could be, well, the customer has this software across 20, 30 devices. Every time there's a software update, you have to go to each machine, go and elevate the user to that. So in that case, I'm just going to go and generate a rule. So I'm going to say, well, actually, in future, if it's the Windows PowerShell and it's anybody at this company, all right, I'm going to just create that rule. So I've gone and created that auto approve. So if I come back to the device now, I'm just going to go and close that one. And we're going to try that again. So we're going to do PowerShell. And this time we're going to run as administrator. You can see my hands didn't touch any buttons in the background, and then it's automatically gone and raised it there. You are still going to get that full audit trail to say, well, actually, it has encountered that elevation prompt. So it's taken place there. You still have that full PAM dashboard as well to show you how many denied there've been, how many encountered there've been there as well. I talked around that local admin detected as well. So it gives you a report of those local admins across devices as well. Have we got any questions around, that end user piece before I show you some more about privileged access management there?
There's no question. I think there's one question, but I think you assume the question is for a further stage of this conversation. It's the question of John.
Yeah, I could see, and the answer is yes. So
yes. All right, John. Quick answer to your question.
So obviously we've got those other access points as well. And what we want to solve for is, a user needs to go and do some work on a server. One of your technicians needs to access a server. Typically, they'll go and do like an RDP or a VNC onto that device. I'm just going to come down to one of my devices down here. And the reason I choose my devices is because I don't want to interrupt anybody else on another demo. So, I have a set of devices that are mine. So as an example, I want to get onto DC01. Now I could backstage to this device, but in this day and age, you might want to add that extra layer of security, remove backstage from servers, forcing people to go and log on via the GUI. So in this instance, I'm going to send that control-delete. So not only is privileged access management, for elevating end users who are only local users, but if I wanted to access this server, now I don't have to go and find a password in a password vault or that shared password that's common against everywhere else. So in this case, I want my technician to tell me why, because really I want them to do things via other means. Need to check user shares as an example. All right, I'm going to request that logon. Now, if you've configured this in a certain way, you can actually set this so that if it's a technician who doesn't normally have access, it would send this, so somebody would have to approve it, which is also useful if you've got third parties that need to access devices as well. So as opposed to setting them up with a new logon to get onto a device, that you've then got to remove, you can have that set there as well. So I'm going to approve that access to that device, and you will see it's creating a temporary inferior account on the device. So I haven't had to share a password, haven't had to spend time looking in a password vault to go and look for that. You're going to go and see, yeah, it is an inferior account, so it is just starting from scratch against that user. I am just going to go and change that to 100% because it's looking a bit out of focus there. And I hate for people to think that it's ScreenConnect itself, because it isn't. So you can see I am on that device now, and I have got full right. You will see that the user that it's created on there is that temp user, temp admin. Now, don't worry, you might say, well, if I'm logged on as temp admin, how do I know it's Shaun who's gone and done items on this device? Again, if I come back to that timeline, you can see there's me remoted to the device, even though it's got that temporary Imperial account. As soon as I log off that account, so as soon as I hit that log off button, what's going to happen is it's going to disable that account. So I haven't had the password to get on in the first place. Even if I reset the password, as soon as I log off that device, that account is disabled. Now we leave that account on this device for around 30 days. Now this is configurable by you. It's not something that is set in stone. Reason we leave it for there on 30 days is that anything that happens in the event log is tied back to a user, which is tied back to the person who is remoted to the device. So we do have those. All right.
That's a very closed loop, Shaun.
Yes.
It's, it
It's
is. It is. So, Shaun, we got one question as well for a very specific one. Well, the interaction always with customers will always be in English. What with the French-speaking customers?
Are we talking about the menu items being in French as opposed to
Everything that's customer facing.
everything that's customer facing? Well, let's go and have a look, shall we? I love to do things on the fly here. I don't like to hide behind. Let's see, or we'll answer that question later. So let's go and have a look. So what we have got in the platform, if we go to administration, we've got an extensions library as well. So we've got an extension libraries. So if you want to do have RDP or VNC connections you want to use, you can go and enable that bridge service there. But let's go and browse, because I believe in here we have translation and localization. So unfortunately, yes, there we go, French translation.
French translation. Jeez, there we go. Oh, that's
So
amazing. That's, to be honest, one of the first software solutions I see in French as well.
yeah, I'll screen
Oh,
connect into French. So that's the commands obviously into French there.
that's great. Dieter, is that answering your question? Please let me know in the chat as well. Shaun, what like to summarize it? We're 47 minutes in. Um, if you summarize what the biggest challenges are for MSPs who are not using ScreenConnect and the biggest challenge that we can solve with ScreenConnect, what are the biggest things that you're coming to?
So the biggest thing that I come into from other people using other remote tools is the reliability and the speed of the tool itself. So we have a lot of people moving because they're saying, well, sometimes it will connect, sometimes it won't connect. And I'm talking about other remote solutions there. Whereas Screen Connect is seen as one of those most robust ones that I've never seen fail in a connection attempt to a device. I'm going to caveat that with I've never seen, because it is feedback I get from our partners. It's like, if any of ConnectWise's products were well known, it's Screen Connect. Screen Connect is that one that's known as the most reliable and quick one out there as well. So when I've got partners who are coming from other products, they're always saying, wow, it's so quick, it does things. So it saves the frustration on the technician part as well. It saves the frustration of the end customer as well, because it means your technician isn't having to phone them up and say, oh, I need you to go and kill a process. I need you to restart your machine, because Screen Connect is always running there in the background.
Yeah, yeah, and that was my second question here as well. Is if you're making an indication of how many time technicians are losing because of a very slow or unstable connection, what would your indication will be? It's rough to say, but what will your experience tell you?
Well, my experience tells me that, being a technician, having worked on the service desk, you get frustrated. It's like you've tried 3 or 4 attempts, and it's like, oh no, I've got a remote to this device again. And it's like you will typically find other ways to do things, and that might be to try and find, like a free use piece of software or something like that, because you're going to find your teams get very frustrated very quickly when the tools they're using don't work for them. So it's more about your technicians' welfare as well, I would say, how they're going to get through their day job. So, I have seen it where in a previous role, it's taken over 5 minutes just to remote to a device. And that's actually interacting with the end user. So even the end user would get frustrated as well. It's like, I've been waiting 5 minutes now for you to, and you might be on the phone and giving a code to get through and things like that. It's like, yeah. Whereas when you've got the agent deployed, seamless.
Yeah. So, and for people that are now using other tools and thinking about migrating over, with everything they saw, it won't be a surprise to me. How long is the migration part for it? Because now we're working with a download link on our website where you can find support. This is with an agent, so you need to push out the agent. What do you see? How quick is our MSPs enabled to use this full solution?
Well, if they've got an incumbent tool that allows them to go and push applications from day one, all you really need to go and do is you go to that access agent, you go and build the MSI installer. All right. And as long as you've got, full admin privileges, you can roll out very quickly. Where it becomes that kind of sneak aware approach is where you've got to go and you haven't got the credentials for machines. So, I showed you those extensions. So, great question there again. We do have all of those extensions in the back here that you can use. So one of those is a client network deployer as well. So if it is a network and you've got known credentials, you just need to have it on one device. Then you can use that one device to go and deploy across the network. Becomes much more difficult in this bring your own device world, because you're not necessarily going to know the credentials of the device, and every piece of software has an issue there. So,
Yeah, 100%, 100%. So we got another question from John. Sean, is any bandwidth requirements? We're not supporting customers using VSAT connections, which are expensive and not fast.
Yeah, so what I would recommend in that situation is, when we connected to a device there, or wrong button, that's when we connected to a device there. So let's just go and say, I'm sure you can go and set this as default in the platform. Let's just go back down to one of my devices. So here you've got join with, that's going to join us as a backstage. What you've got when you do go and join, let's go and join as backstage. You've got that bandwidth control at the top here. I will see if there's any documents around what that is. But if you have got those, those connections, I would always recommend use that low, because that's going to give you the smallest amount of bandwidth to send backwards and forwards, because it's not sending colors backwards and forwards there. So just two-tone.
Awesome. So that's always think of. Sean, I think we will close this note. What will be the last part that you will say for this webinar?
So for this webinar, it would be privileged access management really does put you back in control of end users' desktops. I don't know how many people have, that how many people have local admin still, and they go and install pieces of software. So it enables you to take control of that, but quite easily. It's going to save time from having to go and actually elevate every time. But the main thing for me is it's just that remote control and that speed that, you don't necessarily have to interact with the end user. You can go and push software from the back end. And you may have missed it, but what I could have done is selected multiple machines and hit run tool and sent that piece of software to several machines at the same time, not each one individually. So it's more about doing more with less, is what I see there.
Wow, that's perfect. Thank you so much, Sean, and thanks for everybody making time. I will switch over to Dutch again for a bit for the closing, Sean. Voor iedereen die erbij was, super bedankt dat jullie erbij waren. Echt hele goede vragen gesteld. Mochten jullie nou hier meer over willen weten, laat het vooral weten. Schiet me gerust een bericht of even een mailtje toe. Maar nogmaals, willen jullie nou kijken holistisch over jullie organisatie, om te kijken waar jullie scoren als MSP en hoe we jullie een high-performance MSP kunnen maken? Scan de QR-code en laat ons de diepe inventarisatie doen voor jouw bedrijf. Sean, I can't thank you enough. Thank you so much for your time and effort in this webinar. And to everybody involved in this, thank you so much for making time in your busy schedules and to review this product. Sean, thank you so much, man.
Excellent. Have a great rest of the day, everyone.
Cheers. Bye bye.